Hey, what's up, guys? Calendros here. So it's been a couple days since we did a reaction, but as promised, this is the reaction for Hibria. I'll have another reaction probably later today because today's my day off, so I'll be able to maybe knock out a couple of videos. This one is a breakdown. The reaction I'm going to do later, an actual reaction to a song I've never heard. So that'll be fun. We're going to be doing right now Hibria, and I'm not 100% sure if the pronunciation is correct. I believe so. Change Your Lifeline, which is not a song that I think a lot of people know from them. I think that whole album is just, there is not a bad song on that album, which is really not an easy achievement to do nowadays. And although this is an older album, but there really is no bad songs on here. I think the most commonly known songs on this album are Millennium Quest, Define the Rules, Steel Lord on Wheels, Kingdom to Share. Those are the ones that people know. But there's a lot of other great songs on this album too. I was torn between this song and Stare at Yourself, and a song called High Speed Breakout, which has probably the best and most epic chorus on the whole album. But the song as a whole is not as strong as some of the other ones. Change Your Lifeline I chose because it has all the hallmarks of a good song from them, but it's probably the most crazy song on the album in terms of just like musicality. It's just ridiculous. And for those who have never heard Hibria, they are an extremely technical band for a band that's a power metal band. I mean, they're pretty they're pretty straight ahead power metal, but with some speed and thrash elements. It's kind of interesting. There's some elements of, like, say, early Blind Guardian to their sound, like Somewhere Far Beyond, Tales of the Twilight World type stuff, because the speed at which they play is insane, but also the level of technicality that they play at is unmatched. And what's really unique about them, as opposed to, say, a band like Blind Guardian, which has great guitar work, is for Hibria, it's the whole band. And you'll hear it in this song, maybe not so much as in, say, and this is why I was torn between this one and Kingdom to Share and Define the Rules, because or not Define the Rules, Stare at Yourself, because both Stare at Yourself and Kingdom to Share highlight other instruments a little bit more. But I'm a guitar player, so to me, that ended up winning. So this is Change Your Lifeline, and keep an eye out later, because we're going to be doing a song from a band that I am familiar with, but I have not heard this song nor this album, and the band is called Communic. Really fantastic, straight up heavy metal band that's very heavy, very almost has a melodic death metal sound, but not with death metal vocals. So very progressive as well. So they have interesting elements. It's a very unique band. So check out that later on. So let's get into this song. This is a cool one.
shot by the burning wall, burning and dying in vain. Still on the deep end, my light. Come on, watch your lights all together. Come, see yourself through the past life vision. Is now your prize. Catch it and use it to change your lifeline. I don't wanna have this field anymore. Not accomplish what I fought for. Now it's my turn to change it all. Yeah, anger is my field to destroy. Mercy, justice, so will die. Freedom of mind to the land I will fight for. I won't believe in injustice. I won't be trapped once again. Down to the ones whose lifelines sent them over to know who will fight. Pride and glory to all survivors. The best life vision is now your prize. Catch it and use it to change your lifeline. The best life vision is now your prize. Catch it and use it to change your lifeline.
All right. So, as you can hear from that song, uh, Hibria is immensely, immensely talented. So they have two lead guitar players. It's a really interesting band because they have sort of an almost Iron Maiden like structure. They have two lead guitar players, and they have and just mind-blowingly good bass player, which you heard him in the beginning a little bit with a really awesome tapped bass solo before they kind of really got into the first verse of the song. Also, opening up before that first verse, you had a short, crazy solo, which I believe was tapping. I didn't take notes for this one, so just kind of winging it. I think that one was supposed to. There's stuff they're playing so fast, particularly on Hibria stuff. It's the speed at which they're playing makes it very difficult to try and make out exactly what's going on. Although some parts you can kind of tell, certainly the end part when we get to that. Fairly obvious what's going on during that part, but the solo in the middle, and then the solo at the beginning. It's a mix of techniques. There's a lot of their stuff tends to be so. Drumming wise, this song is insane. Most of their songs are insane. Very fast paced. Not like I wouldn't say their drummer is Mike Portnoy or something like that. It's not that sort of a deal. They're fantastic, but not on like a crazy level in terms of talent for drumming. Their real focus is the stringed section of the band, and the fantastic vocals from. I'm sure I'm going to butcher his name, so if he sees this, I'm really sorry. Iori Sanson, I think is his name. He's going to be the new singer for Eternity's End, which is going to be so great. I am so excited to hear what that new material from them is going to be like, because the first album from them was fantastic. If you haven't heard the song Demon Blade, check it out from them. There is like their music is very similar to this. It's very technical, power metal, but very fast. So like almost like a blend of speed and power. The guitar player is a guitar player from, I believe, well, he's in several things, and Necrophagist, I think, Obscura, and Alkaloid, I believe, also. He's in a bunch of different things, plus his own solo stuff. Christian, again, I'm probably going to butcher this, Munzer, I think. Believe he's German. But anyways, fantastic guitar work from from that. And so they announced for the new album they're going to be bringing in not just Iori from Hibria, but also the bass player, and I'm totally blanking on his name, from Symphony X. So an incredible lineup for that next album is going to be just unbelievable from a technical standpoint, and vocally it should be fantastic too, because it's not to say their original singer was bad in any way. He was not bad, but as you heard on this track, Iori Sanson is a incredible singer. So and then really to get so that you have their songs, almost all Hibria's songs are fairly standard in terms of their structure. Occasionally you'll have a breakdown or whatever, but for the most part they follow a very traditional metal structure. Most of the songs are not over, say, 6 minutes. Stare at Yourself was kind of the exception to that one. That's a fairly long song from them. I think there might have been one other song, Faceless in Charge, I think, was a longer song as well. But anyways, they tend to keep standard, between 4 to 6 minute lengths for their songs, and a fairly traditional structure. But as you heard with the song, they're just absolutely peppered with solos all throughout. The actual guitar playing just for the rhythm section is difficult, and then you have sometimes I didn't hear it at all in this song, but for example, Millennium Quest, which is one of their most well-known songs, which has just ridiculous solos all throughout the song. There are several sections where they're playing solos dual, which is like, so Iron Maiden was famous for their dual leads, right? Like they would have a lead where it was like, all 2 or 3 guitar players were playing the same thing, and it gives a much fuller sound. And because of the fact the tone on each guitar is slightly different, you get this really cool sound, because it doesn't sound like just one person playing. It sounds like several people playing, but it's not. But they're all playing the same thing, so it doesn't sound off. It just has a really cool sound, a very full sound. And this song, I don't know if it has any of that. Wasn't able to pick up on any of it. But in Millennium Quest, there's several points in that song during the solos where the second guitar comes in and is playing the exact same thing, but it's a solo, which is crazy. And it's not just the leads that they do this on. It's solos. So really interesting stuff, and very unique in that standpoint. About the 2-minute mark was the solo, the first like real solo of the song, which was kind of like the instrumental break. You had this one was kind of a mix of techniques, a bunch of different things going on, and nothing super crazy, but very, very, very fast, and it's one of those ones where I shouldn't say not super crazy, because the first part of that solo is really crazy, but and then it sort of cycles down a little bit, and you go back into the verse and chorus, and then at the end, on the last, it's like a bridge. It's not really a verse. It's a bridge to take you out into the final chorus. There is just insane sweep picking going on. I don't know exactly what they're playing. This is an older album, so it's all 6-string guitars. So I would imagine these were 5 or 6-string sweeps, but it's crazy if you listen to it. The speed at which they're playing, and it doesn't sound at all like shoehorned in. That's the thing that really impresses me about Hibria as a band, and we'll hear this also later when I do Communicate. Assuming this new song is similar to their other stuff, both of these bands, they're technical without forcing technicality, because it doesn't sound like it's out of place. And that's really the thing with this album and why it was so good, because every song on this album has immense technicality in it, but it never feels like it's not serving the song. So, when you are a band that has this level of technical ability, I find oftentimes it can be difficult to not go off on a tangent where you're not really serving the song structure anymore. And I mean, one of the best bands at this is Enable of the Scars, which we've reacted to on this channel before, because I always feel like their stuff is serving the song, and yet they're very progressive, but it never gets crazy for me. And that, I think, explains why in interviews Zen has said he's not a fan of progressive music, yet their stuff is very progressive. And I think the reason why Zen doesn't really have as much of a problem with it, I'm guessing, is because it all fits the song. It's not just a lot of crazy playing, and there are definitely bands out there that are like that. And I feel, not to throw any particular band under the bus, and I should say up front that I am a fan of this band overall, but I do know that sometimes Opeth is very much guilty of losing the thread of the song. I feel like I'll listen to a song and they'll go off onto one of their more prog instrumental tangents, and I feel like a lot of times they're straying too far away from the structure of the song, and it's noticeable, right? Which I think is the thing that really bugs some people about prog music is that it will take you out. Another great example, obviously the classic example is Dream Theater, right? So we all know Dream Theater will sometimes go on these tangents for songs for several minutes where it seems like they're completely away from what the rest of the structure of the song was. And the best Dream Theater songs, the best Dream Theater albums, and again, a lot of the best Opeth material is the stuff where they are able to maintain that thread of the song. So, and that's what I think Hibria does so well. And I would definitely encourage you guys to check out the first album, Define the Rules, and the second album, The Skull Collectors, are masterpieces. Define the Rules is one of the all-time great power metal albums ever made, because like I said, it's so rare to have an album where there's not a bad song. Usually there's one dud in the bunch, and that is an achievement in and of itself. Trust me, it's very difficult to have only one bad song on your album. And by, I wouldn't say, I'm not saying terrible song, but that song where you're just skip, and there is not a song on this record that's like that. Even Living Under Ice, which is my least favorite song on the album, is a really objectively great radio song, because it's got kind of a slower tempo. It's more of a mid-paced ballad. It still has some crazy solos, but it's not it almost feels like it was the one that they kind of wrote in mind with being their single for the album. And I've noticed they played that song acoustically a couple of times, which totally makes sense. So you know, I would definitely encourage everybody to check this band out, especially those first two albums. Skull Collectors was very good too. After that, the band, I wouldn't say was bad, but the songs just weren't as good overall. And they've put out a bunch of albums. They were huge in Japan, but they are a Brazilian band, and I think it shows a little bit in their lyrics. And this isn't by no means a knock on the band, because it always constantly amazes me how you can have a band. I'll use Behemoth as an example, because Nergal is Polish, yet their lyrics are so dense, layered, and just well written. It's really pretty astonishing because it's not his first language. That's really crazy to me because I think it's a case with a lot of Americans where we may barely speak another language. I mean, I certainly couldn't write lyrics in Spanish, even though I know a little Spanish. I certainly couldn't write any lyrics in Spanish. So to me, it's not a knock to say that their lyrics are simplistic. They're not bad. They're not, incorrect really per se. There are a few pronoun things that are weird, which makes sense if Spanish is your native language and you're writing songs in English. But their stuff is simplistic. This album is a concept album, actually, and I would say the only song that, even though it's still part of the concept loosely, that stands outside of that is the final song, which is Stare at Yourself, because that one's more of a general purpose theme. This song in particular, again, actually has more of a general feel of a song that is not necessarily tied to the theme, although it specifically mentions parts of the overall story for the album, which is about this guy, the Steel Lord, who's like it's like a motorcycle. It's almost like very Mad Max is what this album story reminds me of, sort of a Mad Max sort of concept. A guy who is like it seems to me that there's a contest almost for like leadership, and the Steel Lord is racing against these other guys, but it's like a race to the death, and and stuff like that, and so that's one of the things that's kind of really neat about the album, but the lyrics are not like super deep or crazy. They're just lyrics. Change a Lifeline is about, at least I took it to be about, changing your, like if you're on a path, like that something you do every day. So you go to work, you have your 9-to-5 job, it's kind of boring, you're capable of so much more, but it's the simple thing for you, right? To just go to work, do your job, come home, whatever. So that's that lifeline. That's what you do. By change your lifeline, I take it to mean like, doing something outside of the bounds of what you do normally to change the total trajectory of where you are. And in the context of, I think, the story of the album, it's really more about the Steel Lord taking risks to try and become this ruler, to break this sort of corrupt power regime. It's actually a kind of an interesting story for the album, as long as you look at it from with it in mind that it's not their native language. So it's not everything's going to be perfect, right? So you have to think of it that way. As long as you can kind of separate that aspect of it, it's really a pretty cool story, and a very, very, very good album. So definitely recommended. The end of this song is very indicative of a lot of stuff you hear in some of the other songs, with a lot of really, really crazy sweep picking, and you can't really tell because of how much the guitar is going off right there, but the bass is playing some crazy shit underneath too. I'm not as, I'm not as well versed in the bass enough to know exactly what's going on in the background there. It could be he might be mirroring the sweep picking with tapping, which is something that he does in other songs. I think Stare at Yourself has that in a couple spots where he's literally mirroring the solo, the sweep picking of the solo by tapping it on the bass, which is crazy. And so I would really, if you're a fan of really soaring power metal vocals, like very competent drum playing, and then especially incredible bass work and incredible guitar work, I cannot recommend this band highly enough. This is a great song from them. Probably not their best song, but it was a different song. I didn't want to do the songs that everyone knew. I wanted to kind of show a different song, one that is kind of a deep cut on the album, so to speak, so hopefully I succeeded in that. So I'm going to end the review here. Like I said, keep an eye out because very soon I'll be uploading a reaction to a new song from Communic. So check that out when it comes up. I'll see you guys later. Stay metal.